+27 73 470 3520 or call us at +27 12 001 7679. Let your voice be heard. Adventist World Radio, powered by SID Media. From broadcast to baptism.
Friendship is beautiful. At least it is definitely supposed to be. And we want to know how to improve ourselves first and foremost so that we could possibly be the best friends to the people who know how to love us back well. And knowing that friendship is beautiful, when you meet the right ones, you want to make sure that you are not going to be the problem in that equation. Let's find and correct, where we have kind of gone wrong, so that there's even more joy in these very crucial relationships in 2026. From Family Treasures is Ms. Denise Loris joining me this morning. Good morning, Denise. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Good morning. How are you?
Great, thanks. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank
Lovely
you so
one.
much for having me.
Lovely one. Family Treasures, firstly, that's the name of your organization. Why that name in particular? And how does friendship then also kind of encompass the work that you do?
So, Family Treasures is a blog that I started when my daughter was very young. Motherhood is a very lonely space. You are learning so much in a short period of time, and you looking for that confirmation that you're doing it right sometimes. And I created the Family Treasures blog so that people would have a place to connect, to get information, to live happy and healthy life. And sometimes we don't always have the tools or the information to do that. So this is why we formed Family Treasures.
Sounds beautiful. I just want to get what you were saying is that motherhood is a time of learning and it's also lonely.
Yes, for sure. I think, especially as a new mom, it's we've never done it before, and anyone who's a mom will know that it's quite a journey. It's quite a learning experience, and feeling that, am I doing it right? Am I doing the best for my children? And also, you're just with your child all the time. You not sleeping. Your friends that don't have kids don't, perhaps understand as much because they haven't been through that experience. So your friendships start to change in motherhood, and that's okay. Friendships evolve. People come, people go. Some people stay, and that's 100% okay.
Wow, I love that you said that about how friendships change when motherhood kind of knocks on your door. And I've always wondered why is that? Is it that our value systems are no longer the same, or our priorities maybe are no longer the same? Those without kids maybe don't really understand what those with kids are going through, and maybe those without kids don't really want to be all up in your space, or maybe people don't have kids for different reasons. So if maybe you're someone who doesn't want to have kids ever, you don't want to find yourself with kids around all the time. Now we're supposed to go out, now there's this one, and you are like, yo, auntie duties that I never signed up for, or whatever it is. So I guess it can be hectic.
Sure. No,
Yeah.
you're totally right. Some people are not kid people, and that's 100% okay. And so, but our dynamic will change as we grow, as we become parents and grandparents. Our dynamics with our friends will change. It's just
I wonder,
normal.
does that make someone a bad person when the friendship changes because of circumstances? You bring up motherhood, but it's not just motherhood. I forgot there's a term that they use, but let's talk about like lifestyle changes as well. Maybe you grew up together and you were all of this particular class, since we always categorize people, and then you accumulate wealth in your, whether younger life or whatever, but your life changes and it becomes quite different to that of the friends that you had, and they were there supporting you throughout this journey. Now it's like, okay, I want to go to this place. This one does not have money. They never have money. What do we do? Do I always pay for this person? It's like you become a crutch, or do we just let it
Mm.
go and move on to other people who can afford the life that I kind of love, and I can also go out and on vacations and things that the people in your circle still are not able to afford, might never be able to
Mm.
afford. And I want, I'm using that as an example for you to then speak to what true friendship really is supposed to look like.
Um, yeah, you've said a lot, and I want to touch on everything a little bit.
Oh.
And so let's start with, are they a bad person? Or are you a bad person if you're separating those friendships? And I would say definitely not. I think it depends on your intent, and everything should be done prayerfully, because we don't know their situation fully. They don't know our situation fully. And it's also okay to have different friendship groups. That's 100% okay. Maybe this friendship, we go out and we hang out at the beach, and there's no cost involved, and we both have kids and our kids spend time on the beach. That's great. And then I might have my single friends who we go out and we go to dinners, and that's okay too. So that's 100%. True friendship definitely needs to be safe. It doesn't matter our circumstances, lifestyle changes, anything like that. It needs to be safe. And that means I want you to think of your friendships where your friends can come over to your house, or you can go over to their house, and say they come over and you're in your pajamas and the house is a mess, and there's no judgment. They come
Yeah.
up, they help you clean up. Maybe you've had a really hectic day, or you've just had a baby, or like for me, my family was in hospital this year. So they are there, they show up, and there's no judgment. You don't have to prove your worth to them. If you have to prove your worth to someone,
Mm-hmm.
there's something very wrong there. That's not true friendship. Your worth is always there. Um, and another thing is mutual respect and consistency. Now, I
Yeah.
need to be very clear here, because we are all very busy with our lives. We live in
Yeah.
a very busy era where people are working, people are serving, people are doing so many things. And so when I mean consistent, I mean they are there when you need them the most. And like I said, my family was in hospital this year. My mom, we took her to hospital. She ended up having to have a triple bypass. Just before that, my dad had an eye operation, so he couldn't drive. He couldn't go see her. I had to take him through daily. On top of that, with work and run my family and everything else, it was a lot going on. And the consistency was those friends who touched base. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a burden. They were there. They were like, "How are you doing? I'd love to, come over." Or if you're okay, they never overstep that boundary. They're respectful, but at the same time, they're consistent. They are there, and I really appreciated their love and support for me. And that
Yeah.
takes me to another point.
Mm-hmm.
Friendship is about, well, I have these amazing female friends who are supportive and loving, and they're amazing. But they also don't leave me where I'm at. They help me grow. They do it the most loving way. They will say something, they will ask me a question, and then I will think about that and be like, wait a second, I need to maybe change the way I think a bit about this
Okay.
subject, what I'm doing here. And they never leave me where I am. They're always helping me to grow and become a better version of myself. And I think that's critical to having
Okay.
good friendships as well. Not somebody who's
Mm,
just going to be yes, yes, tell you what you want to hear.
mm,
That's not what I need in
mm,
my life.
mm. That's really powerful. And I'm going to go off the rails here because I'm feeding into what you were saying. And I know that, how do I put this one? People will say, okay, be careful, social media is not real life. True.
Yes.
But to some extent, it does influence a lot of real life. Just like
Mhm.
real life influences a lot of what happens on social media. So it might not be your real life, but it's someone else's real life, for example. And I wanna
Mhm.
then speak to through 3 points that crossed my mind as you were sharing. Maybe let me start off with the last one. I don't know if you remember all of them. I want to just kind of make it a bunch, and you'll tell me what you have forgotten. But you said my female friends. You said my female friends, and then you went on to share about them. There are people who will, and now that's the other thing. Everyone has a microphone. Everyone can afford a microphone, and everyone can speak. Freedom of expression, yeah. And people will say, some people will talk about how I don't have female friends, and you're female, right? You're a lady, and you say I don't have female friends, and then maybe you go into how women are toxic or something along those lines. I'd like us to speak to that and some of those narratives. I don't know if it's simply just gendered, but I'm assuming there's much more to it than that. The other one is, again, the social media rhetoric, which can be both good or bad. Like, you can learn from social media, for example, that, oh, snap, I don't have boundaries. It's important to set boundaries. And maybe some boundaries might come across as extreme. For example, I was told, okay, ooh, I put myself in it, but I've heard people literally say, and I guess I've experienced it too, where when someone gets married, don't be friends with someone who's not married. Um, I don't know if that's a cultural thing. Maybe you can also speak about it if you've heard similar things before. The other one is someone saying, my friends do not come to my house. My house is out of bounds. My house is a sanctuary. It's a sanctity, and therefore no friends will hang out here. And then that goes into like the friendship kind of expectations, where some people seem to have very tall expectations that unfortunately maybe a friend is not able to live up to at that time, but you feel neglected. And I love that you spoke about how we are all busy. But if you are not able to then maybe understand other people's plights, or maybe the other people are considered very selfish, that they don't know how to bend over backwards for other people. I don't know if it could be that. And maybe that's what makes adult friendships so complicated, so difficult. And you want them to be whole, but you're struggling. Please touch on those 3 points.
Okay. Firstly, about female friends. So I grew up, I had 2 brothers. I'm used to brothers. I've had a lot of guy friends. And so I can totally understand people saying, oh, I don't have female friends and they catty and they're not supportive. But I can guarantee that there are female friends out there for you. And not every female needs to be your friend. So let's make that clarification. Just because we're women doesn't mean that we are right for each other. And I think we'll touch on that a bit later.
Okay.
But we got to find people with shared values, people who we can relate to. The female friends I have in my life are amazing, powerful, growing women. And I relate to them so much. They are just wonderful women. And I never grew up with a lot of female friends. So it's 100% okay if you're not used to, as long as you have 1 or 2 good female friends who support you, because there is something to be said about same-sex friendships, about someone who understands your life in the same way that you are living it. So there's something as women that we understand about each other that men will never understand. And that's very important. It's a critical part of really thriving, is having those female friendships. But again, not every female needs to be your friend. And we need to set boundaries, like you said. And I'm going to touch on that in a second. But I just want to go over to married friends first, single friends. Like, should married women have single friends? So I 100% think you can have single friends for sure. I think, again, it comes to that boundary situation. And is that a true friendship? Because if your single friend is getting you to go to places or do things that is not respecting your marriage, then that's not true friendship. And that is not the friend that you want to have. My single friends have always supported my marriage. They've never wanted me to do things that didn't support marriage or family. And if you have a friend that's not respecting, that is a friend that maybe you need to let go. but 100% you can have single friends. I mean, I have some of the most amazing single friends. They just
Yeah.
they're amazing. And again, down to expectations and these tall expectations.
Yeah.
It all going back to this boundaries again. And something I wanted to touch on was healthy friendships begin with boundaries. So
Mm.
when we starting a friendship, those boundaries should be established. And the Bible teaches in Proverbs 4:23 to guard our hearts, right? So
Yeah.
boundaries allow relationships that are healthy and God honoring, right? So if
Mm.
we don't have those boundaries in place, that's when we're going to have problems with our single friends, with the expectations, with anything that we have when it comes to friendships. We're going to land in problems when we don't have those boundaries. And
Yeah.
those boundaries are important. And when we have those boundaries, it's about telling ourselves that we respect ourselves, and we respect the other person. The greatest friendships I have boundaries in place, um, but I never have to exercise them
Mm.
because
Mm.
those people respect and love me and they love my family. So
I love that. That's very beautiful. Oh man, we're learning about how we are going to navigate friendships better in 2026. Whatever questions you might have, family treasures, Denise Loris is joining us for this one. +2773 4703520. It's a WhatsApp number. Feel free to use little comments, of course, on the socials. I was watching a video the other day this week of a man who was talking about why he does not lend his friends and his family money. And again, so this is a boundary that he sets only later in life. So he used to do it, but he says he learned that this doesn't work. It's either I'm going to give this person the money because I'm not going to have any expectations so that I'm okay, I'm at peace with myself and with them. Not wanting to, I don't want to pester anyone for money when they are, I guess, not able to give it back or whatever. Because he lent his friend money when the friend was going through a hard time, and then it never came back. So years later, of course, there was a rift because once you start saying, "Hey, what happened?" people can be defensive. The next time the friend then came and said, "May I please borrow however amount of money they wanted?" He then said, "Okay, you're gonna have to give me your car." So it's almost like a barter exchange, right? You're gonna give me your car. I'm gonna keep it for when do you think you're gonna get the money back? Okay, after 2 weeks. All right, you'll get it back after 2 weeks. This was somewhat different, and that's kind of like what happened. But the person didn't have the money after 2 weeks. And then with this one, it went really wild because the person talks about how I sold the car to get my money back. Yeah, that was a bit extreme. So it was a lot of money that was involved. Um,
mm,
but the importance of boundary setting and knowing how to then navigate things that might be a sore interest to you. And I know we live in a world where we judge each other so much. So I might be like, Denise is so mean. How could she not give, this person 50,000 Rand? Denise has money. What's her problem? But Denise is looking at from it from a different perspective. Your lens is different. Like, I value this person a lot, sure, but I'm seeing what they might not be seeing and how this is going to cause a rift. If it causes a rift because I'm, exercising my boundaries, I guess it is what it is. But I would not want us to part ways on a bad note. Yeah, I don't know, Denise.
I think when you get older, you get more comfortable with boundaries. That is one thing I've learned.
Yeah,
We obviously don't want to burn bridges, and we do want to keep our friends in our lives. For me, just on the money thing,
yeah,
I don't lend money unless I'm willing to not get it back.
yeah. You forgo it.
Um, yeah, so if it's if I'm willing to give it over as a gift, and then that's fine, because money is such a sensitive topic for many. But let's talk on boundaries. So I think, first of all, when we're forming friendships, sometimes these friendships are already formed because, you know, we grew up with them, and those we need to evaluate because they are not always healthy. It is what it is. I had a friend growing up, loved her, but she would always say, "I know you," followed by something negative. "I know you are like," and then I had to say, well, you know, we have so much history, and, you know, I appreciate all the love and friendship she's given me, but is this healthy for me to have someone who is breaking me down? So, first of all, evaluate the friendships that you do have. Secondly, when you start getting to know someone, take your time. I think sometimes we rush things, and we just want to have those friends and go out and have fun. Take your time getting to know people. They will show you who they are. And there's something called rushed intimacy, and I just want to read you the definition here. Now, this can be true for romantic or friendships, but it says, by definition, rushed intimacy is accelerating emotional and physical closeness in a relationship faster than a solid foundation of trust, understanding, and compatibility can support, often confusing intensity for true intimacy, leading to burnout, instability, or feeling empty, and involves skipping crucial steps like getting to know someone's true patterns or setting boundaries. And it feels like an intense sugar rush of dopamine and oxytocin, but lacks the depth for long-term health. So if someone's rushing a friendship with you, that's a red flag. Okay, take that as a red flag. We can observe their consistency in who they are and their values over time, and take it in your stride to get to know people. An important thing also, in order for us to set boundaries, but also for us to have healthy friendships, I'm a big advocate of therapy. Many of us grew up in families where we did learn good things, but we didn't learn all the tools, or maybe we got damaged along the way. So, in order to heal ourselves, going to therapy or having some sort of group, or even just reading up. I love reading up, and to gain the cool tools that I don't have. Healing those parts of ourselves that we don't, you know, necessarily know we are missing, or are broken in some way, is very important. And that helps us to set boundaries, but it also helps us in learning to trust ourselves. I'm going to be okay if I set this boundary and lose this friend. I'm going to be okay if we have a friendship. I'll be able to stand up for myself. I'm capable of creating a healthy friendship. So we learn the self-trust at the end of the day, and that's very important. You know, in the scriptures, it tells us to love God and then our fellow men, and our neighbors, should I say. But most importantly, or love others as we love ourselves. Most importantly, we need to love ourselves first. And I think we forget that. We need to love ourselves and trust ourselves, and that way we go into the relationship. And in a friendship, if somebody sets a boundary with me, I respect that. I feel like, oh wow, you're setting this boundary. I know what your needs are. So somebody who's is not going to be offended by your boundaries. Someone who's offended is the reason you set the boundaries in the first place.
Ooh. Ooh, girl. Yep. Someone who is offended is the reason. Yeah. Someone who is offended by a boundary is the reason you set the boundary in the first place. You know, you don't want to have resentments at the end of the day, which is really beautiful. I love what you're saying. But I need you to paint this picture of what a rushed intimacy in friendships. Yeah. What does that look like?
Okay, so there can be different reasons for rushed intimacy. It can be something really sinister, like they're trying to scam you, get money out of you, or it can be just someone who's really clingy and wants to emotionally, like an emotional vampire. That's the best way I can put it. Somebody who has not done the healing work themselves, and they want to take that energy, and they want your sympathy, and they want to be the victim a lot of the time. And this with a lot of empathy towards people all across South Africa have been through so much, especially women have suffered if we think of GBV and all those things. So I don't want to take away from that. But there are people who stay in that state of survival and victimhood, and they want that friendship so that they can drain you, and you land up with an empty cup, and you filling their cup all the time, but you're empty, empty, empty. So
So being
what they
empty means
do,
that,
hey?
oh, sorry, Denise, I was saying being empty, would that mean that you end up feeling low when you hang out with this person, when you speak to this person, your emotions kind of always come down? Maybe you were happy and now you like almost kind of depressed somewhat?
Yes. Yes, for
Okay.
sure. And you might also feel, so you're depressed, you might also feel like you need to fix all their problems. And that's not your job, you know? We only have one savior. We're not supposed to be everyone's savior. We can help people, but there comes a problem when it's they're draining us completely and they are not putting in the work to heal, right? So yeah.
I
That's
like that.
really
I love this because it's very practical. And I think a lot of us have not been taught how to navigate relationships well, and we take the beatings
mm-hmm,
that at a certain age we need to become more assertive and stop taking those beatings. We didn't know any better. And maybe I guess
mm-hmm,
a lot of people, even now, even as adults, don't know any better because, trauma responses and being
exactly.
unhealed makes us continue choosing those people. And someone I was speaking to, I think last week, said it's almost like, let's say with narcissism as an example, it's like this person can smell you from a distance and they
Oh yeah.
know that,
Especially if you're an empathetic person who's very
yes,
loving.
yes, oh, she's nice, she's kind. That's that becomes the victim. And I guess it's like, why do these nice people always get into these hectic situations? Maybe you're so nice and you assume that setting boundaries makes you not a nice
Mm-hmm,
person. Therefore you
mm-hmm.
don't.
Absolutely.
But horrible people feed off that
Mm-hmm.
because you want to please everyone. You're a people pleaser and you thrive. You love the attention and affirmation that you get from people about, oh, she's so sweet. Oh, the day you set a boundary, you'll see people
Mm-hmm.
change. Why are you not a nice person just because you said, I'm not gonna accept this? But when you accept what they do, then you're nice. I don't know if you can speak to that because I know a lot of people struggle with that, and you said women struggle with that a lot. I'm sure there are men who struggle with that too. Can we talk about it? Because in the family dynamics, you can also see that concept kind of like being exercised.
Mm. Yeah, that happens a lot, and I've seen it a lot. I myself have been like that. We call them doormats.
Yo.
I've been one myself.
Yeah.
So, it like you said, it can be a trauma response where we've learned to keep the peace so that we can
Yeah.
have peace in
Yeah.
the home. And so, when we actually stand up and say, "This is not okay. I'm not okay with this behavior,"
Mm.
that is when we are deemed as not nice. And I have a thing about being nice and being kind. I'm not
Okay.
nice. I'm kind, but I'm not
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
Nice people are peacekeepers. I'm a peacemaker. I'm going to talk about things. I'm going to say what's right, what's not right, and at the end of the day, I'm going to love you very hard. But I will not accept disrespect for myself or my family. And it's taken me a long time to get there. So if
Okay.
you're not there at this point, that's
Mm.
okay.
You're not
It
alone.
takes time, it takes healing, and it's
Yeah.
therapy people.
Yeah, that's something that we really do need a lot of. And I was, I'm so glad we were talking to the Tears Foundation last week, and Celeste shared the toll-free number that they have, and she said you don't even need airtime for it. We
Mhm.
all need healing. I know sometimes we listen to radio stations, we watch TV programs, we see all these therapists, and you're like, whoa, this must be a lot of money. Of course, those people are always
Mhm.
well put together. It's organizations, and you're thinking, obviously, they have to survive. But there is work that is done by people who do it out of pocket, and you can get the necessary help without needing to spend money if you are not able to afford. So one of the places that you can try out is the Hope line, which we did share last week. So you can get it from our social media handles on the conversation trauma, trauma, trauma. Okay. I want us to touch, Denise, on how then we surpass trust, because I think that's one of the big issues, so that we are
Mhm.
able to build healthy relationships. I bring this up because maybe as an adult you you were hurt, or maybe you were hurt as a child, as a teenager, whatever happened, but you were hurt by someone you really trusted as a friend. Maybe you
Yeah.
hurt people, and that has come to your attention, but you don't know how to fix that. I've seen TV shows where someone will be crying like, I always mess up. I always mess up. Okay. All right. Good. You've identified that maybe you are the problem, or people have continued to hurt you. But you said we need friendships to thrive. We're
Yes.
not an island. And yes, you can
Mhm.
get into a beautiful, loving relationship, and it's you and your spouse, and it's beautiful. But it might not be enough. You think it's enough, but maybe you're draining your partner, because now they're taking on a lot of emotional burdens and a lot of things that they should not be doing in a loving romantic relationship. But again, because they love you and they chose you, you are here, like yeah, and no one else must be part and parcel of your life. Can we speak about how to then get to a place where we have healthy friendships when you're struggling with trust issues?
Yeah, and I think you've touched on a few good points there. Those trust issues come often, like we said, from past trauma, things that have happened, disappointments. And so trust is not something that's easy sometimes for people to build. I firstly give yourself grace, where we don't have to be perfect right away. Let's do this in steps. So trust grows in layers, much like an onion. You have different layers, and we start little bit by little bit. Um, and
Yeah.
again, we've got to set those boundaries, very important, so that we develop friendships with healthy people. So when we do that, we learn to trust ourselves. So the first important part of trust is learning to trust ourselves. Like I said before, I trust myself that I can be okay if this person is not in my life when I set a boundary. I trust myself that I'll be able to cope. I trust myself that I'll be able to be vulnerable enough to open up to this person.
Ooh, that's
And
another difficult one.
vulnerability is not easy, okay? Um,
Mm.
but I think trust comes down to those two things: learning discernment, so knowing this person is a good, healthy person for me, and then self respect and trust. I know I
Yeah.
can deal with anything. And when we do that, we can open ourselves up to trust someone else and be okay with whatever happens.
Mm.
So ultimately, we have our, God who we can trust 100%. Okay. But the
Mhm.
rest of us, we're all imperfect, just what it is.
It's a risk.
we we're going to make it's a risk, we're going to make mistakes, but we trust ourselves to cope no matter the circumstance. So self trust, self love, and then being able to share that with other people,
That's
and
beautiful,
discerning who
Denise.
you shouldn't share it with. There are some people you shouldn't be sharing your trust with, and that's okay.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. And it goes back for me to one of those fundamental points that you made about give it time. We're always in a hurry. We're always in such a hurry. I need this thing now. But if you are taking, because if you say I need this thing, right? It's not selfless. It's a selfish, what am I
Mm.
going to benefit from this person, as opposed to what
Mm.
do I have to contribute to this person and their life, because both your well-being is important for this friendship to actually then be healthy. Otherwise, no, someone is a vampire, like you said, and the other one
Mhm.
is just, yeah, sucking the blood.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah, Ralph Waldo Emerson, he gave this quote. He said, "The only way to have a friend is to be one." So if we're
Yeah,
looking for that friendship, we need to be that friend that we want and start
yeah,
with that self-healing, self-love, and then giving that to other people.
yeah. And I think also the other thing is with social media, we you might be in a delusion of thinking everyone is your friend because you go onto Facebook, we call
I've got
them
friends,
friends.
friends.
You go on Instagram, all these followers on TikTok, and you see people sharing their whole life. I'm not saying it's right and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying this is what some
Yes.
people do. Content creators, story time, and they share and they share. And yes, we're learning so much from people's experiences.
Mhm.
But we also need to then consider what is healthy behavior that might be good for me and for other people, but what is also harmful behavior. We see people going to mental institutions, people who we thought they've got so many friends. Can an adult really have so many friends? And I don't know if there's a number to it. We often talk about how Jesus's circle was quite small. It was like
Mm.
3 was the inner circle, you know?
Yeah.
I and I'm assuming that's the principle, that it's not the make the circle bigger, bigger is better. No, in this case, it's the other way around. Small might be actually might be better because that's quality as opposed to
Mhm.
thousands of people. But are they really your friends?
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, for
Yeah.
sure. We need to have quality friendships, like you said, but take our time with each one. And those,
Which one?
like, there's people in the world, we will have lots of friends, but there are very few close friends that we will have, that we will invite into our space, that we will share our
Mm,
lives with. Um, it's again, discernment of knowing what is the right way, and what is the right things to be sharing and not to share.
right.
And when we have our own families, we should also be protective of them as well, not sharing everything with everyone.
And to be fair, you also did say, right, that you can have different friendship groups because then you would know where you kind of place them on a hierarchical system of your own life where each one kind of fits. This is the circle where I'm able to share about, my family if I've got a problem that's bothering me and I need advice. This is who I go to if I'm really, really struggling. Maybe I can tell this one about the conflict I had with my husband. Was I wrong in my decision? I don't know. Other people will say, never, ever, ever, ever tell anyone anything. I don't know how to navigate that. I don't know if it's one of those different strokes for different folks, but also this is also how we watch people get abused, because abuse is not only
Mhm.
physical as well. It's psychological, it's emotional, it's verbal. And some people find themselves in that for years. And it's a shock the day that maybe tring, something, a light bulb, switches on and the husband is like, she's leaving me. What's going on? But you didn't realize that for years and years and years, there was just this buildup of resentment and this huge gap between you, but you couldn't see it because I don't
Mhm.
know, you were not trained to see it, or you guys had been miscommunicating all these years, and someone was people pleasing for the sake of peace or whatever it is. I guess it's complex. And maybe you want to speak to that, but also I'd like you to touch on people who are really struggling to make friends, have been struggling to make friends. We know people like that. And you feel like life is so lonely. Life is so, you're chasing, but it's like people are running away from you. um where and how can one make friends that are genuine? How can we go about it in this new year?
Okay, so let's start with how can we make friends, and or let me just touch on what you said initially about husbands and wives and families and sharing those things. I think we do need to be very careful. What's deemed as okay in our culture, and that goes across many different cultures, can maybe be abuse. So educate ourselves about what abuse is and speak up if we're going through that. It's important. There, as you said, there's a number we can call to find out these things. We also have a free resources blog post about talking about depression or mental health or abuse or those sort of things. So go check that out. Just get the help that you need, and speak up if that's happening. However, if it's something that is not abuse or not huge, and I'm careful when I say that, because we might be comfortable, again, we grew up with something that wasn't okay, and so we think it's okay. But if it's, your husband is not helping around the house or whatever it is, it's something that you haven't addressed with him. It's not something you haven't had a conversation with him personally about, and we go tell that to our mother, or we go tell that to our friends. What happens is we then have a conversation with our husband apologizes to us, he starts helping around the house, but maybe we don't tell our friends or our mother about that, and then we tell our friends' mother or father or family about something else he did, and that resentment in them builds up. So we've forgiven and moved on, but they are holding on to that resentment, and that harms the family. So if it is abuse, and find the tools, make sure that you're not accepting that. And it can also be emotional abuse. Don't accept that. But if it's something that you haven't brought up with your husband or your family, and you are going to tell that to someone else, that will damage your household, that will damage your family, that will damage the relationship that your parents have with your husband. And even long after you've forgiven him and moved on, they're holding that resentment, and that's not fair. So I think it, again, very prayerfully, something that you must consider, and do your research, get the help that you need. If you are feeling completely low and you've addressed it with your companion, and nothing's changed, and you're still feeling that way, get help. There could be something there that's not right, and sometimes it's hard to identify. So finding a professional that you can speak to is very helpful. But with regards to making friends, you probably won't believe this, but I am very shy. I was always very shy. I was a little kid behind my mom's dress that would hide. I am more extroverted than my husband. My husband is introverted, but not shy, right? But I can be sometimes shy. So it takes a lot for me to sort of open up. But at the same time, I've kind of learned how to do that. And it does take courage, because you got to realize that most people, say you're sitting in a waiting room and you start a conversation with someone, they also want to talk to you, but maybe they're also feeling shy. Even as adults, we are still the same people. We still have those emotions. So number one, I would say most important, to position yourself in the right place. So look for people who have shared values, not just shared interests. So
what's the difference?
Not shared values, not shared interests only. So you might have somebody, I like to dance, and I go to a dance group, which is good, but I meet somebody who likes dance. We both like dance, but our values are way different. That's not good or healthy for us. We need to have shared values. Number one, good spaces to do this, or find people as community spaces like churches, volunteer groups, hobby clubs, parent groups, wellness activities. They're all good places to find people who have shared values. And not everyone in that group will be right for you, but you will find your people. And that's okay. Another thing we can do is serve somewhere. Go to a soup kitchen. We just did our, for our church, we just did our Light the World Christmas activity. We went out into Khayelitsha and we served the people there. And it was so beautiful, with people of all different races just coming together. And we built beautiful friendships, people of all different races and ages. It was just so beautiful. So get out there and do something, serve someone, give of yourself, and that's a great way. And just like I said, be brave enough to initiate. initiate something. So talk to someone, send a text, invite them out for a bite to eat, to do something that scares you. If we're getting comfortable in life, we're not growing. And
Okay.
growing means we're going to find those friends who really align with us and our growth pattern. So do
Beautiful.
those sort of things.
Make sure it's as natural as possible, even if you are scared,
Mhm.
but it must be organic, You like it,
Yes.
they like it as
Authentic.
well. Authentic. I love that. Please share your resource blog again so that people can check it out.
So they can go to familytreasures.co.za. And if they go to the search bar, they can find anything that they're looking for with regards to what we've spoken to today. We also
Thank you
have a
so
blog
much,
on
Denise.
friendship specifically.
You've also got so familytreasures.co.za, and there's all those beautiful resources right there. If you can go big or go home, basically, on
Yeah.
the website. All right, Denise, thank you so much. You've been so excellent. Have a beautiful continued festive season, and I really appreciate you taking some time off your holiday to come and work a little bit here on radio. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so nice chatting to you. I love your insights. You really understand relationship dynamics so well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Be blessed.
Okay. Thank you.
Adventist World Radio, SID Media. We are not